Good evening and welcome to the Trumbull Water Pollution Control Authority meeting of January 14th, 2026. I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Frank Regnieri,
Here.
Bruce Elstein,
Here.
John Green,
Here.
John Break.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, so Margaret, I think we have to have a motion to amend the meeting minutes. Is that what you said?
That is correct, yes.
So there was an omission on one of the seconds for approval of, I believe, the capital plan.
Correct. It was
And-
moved by Commissioner Green and seconded by Commissioner Break.
So we just need a motion to amend the meeting notes to that regard. Can I have a motion?
Yep, so moved.
I have a second, please.
Second.
That the modifications are approved. Now I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes as submitted to you guys.
So moved.
I have a second, please.
Second.
Have a vote. Margaret, the
Very good.
vote passed unanimously. So now we're going to go on to new business first, and that is Bill will speak to our new sewer maintenance position update.
So the position has been posted and will close at the end of the month, and hopefully we have some viable candidates.
With that, anybody have any questions or? The next meeting is Bill is going to discuss our 2.7 million capital improvement plan and bond.
So I just need to grab my paperwork here. Give me 1 second. So I don't I can't find the
What do you need, Bill? I may be able to pull it
I
up.
need the backup that shows the capital, what they're funding. I just
Okay, let me do it for you.
I have everything else but that.
Oh, I don't have it open yet. I just gotta go open it. Hang on. Maybe you could just talk for a couple minutes.
So the $2 million is for the Wildwood Pump Station. 500,000 is for the Beardsley floor, up repairing the floor that's falling apart. And there's 200,000 for something, and I don't remember what it was.
I'm getting it.
You getting it?
Yeah, I have it. I just gotta.
So what's the strategy for repairing the floor? Because that seemed like a very tricky project.
It is. So I actually met with a staging company that would build the platform, because you need to go over all the obstacles. Met with them actually yesterday, and they're putting together a plan and some kind of proposal. Margaret, all we see is your,
I know, it's saying that it's paused. Hang on. There we go. Now I can only share the plan and then do you want me to then share the backup afterwards?
well, you can just share the backup. I mean,
Just
What you-
backup?
What you sent with the backup is fine. I just don't remember what the 200,000 was.
Okay. So the
Are
200,
leaving it pump station and sewer system evaluation and preliminary design, is that it?
that is exactly it.
That's it. Okay, thank you. What
Okay.
we have is for ongoing design going forward for the next phase of pump stations.
So this fiscal year is from June.
No, this is a calendar year for the bonding request. This goes from
Okay.
January 1st to December 31st.
So the Wildwood Pump Station will be affected, be bid and hopefully constructed this year.
We hope to start this year, yes. Hope to put it out to bid and get it going.
And the floor, I assume the same thing.
Yes, yes, if not sooner.
Yeah, I put a priority on that.
Any questions on any of those or?
I have no questions.
Now, how much did Reservoir cost us, Bill?
Roughly 1.7 million.
And this is a project on roughly the same scale, right? So,
Yes, approximately. It doesn't have some of the drawbacks that Reservoir had with size-wise constraints or. But
yeah, well, Reservoir, we only had that which we had the
the easement for.
from the easement on from the property owner, right?
Right.
Whereas Wildwood, that's the one we visited that has the submergible tank, or you were talking about putting in submergible pumps, if I remember
Yep.
right.
Yep, correct. Right now it's a can style where you have to go down a ladder to maintain the pumps. Margaret, can you stop sharing your screen?
Sure.
Thank you. And then,
So the
Is
so the
Wildwood-
2.7 million bond is for Wildwood, 500,000 to repair the floor at Beardsley, and 200,000 for other miscellaneous capital improvement design efforts.
yes,
Would that be the Whitney Avenue pump station?
well, the Whitney Avenue pump station, we're already under preliminary design.
Okay. And there's no rush to have that done this year, correct?
No, no, the next one will be Merritt Boulevard.
Yeah. I don't know where I don't recall seeing that one, but
Well, We're
so
just an FYI, we're planning on doing another pump station tour in February 21st. So you might want to see
I'll have
that.
to I'll have to
That's a
reserve
Saturday,
my
right?
calendar.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think
John?
I'm out of town that day, but whatever.
John Brake, you haven't had the pleasure of a tour of our sewer pump facilities. You're going to find it fascinating, I assure you.
I did get a tour. They gave me a private tour.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
it was
All right.
Very fascinating. My memory is Wildwood is in someone's backyard, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
Okay.
as opposed
I
to
recall
Old
it's-
Town, which is in the front yard.
Bill,
The front
that-
yard, it is the front yard.
Yeah.
Bill,
Yeah.
that tour is along with the Board of Finance and Town Council.
That's correct.
Oh,
So,
you have a full house there.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so
So-
what action do we need to take on this? I mean,
We're gonna have to, do we need to have a motion on this or did we already,
Yes.
we do?
So we voted on the 5-year capital plan. This is the 1-year capital funding.
Does anybody have any questions before I ask for a motion to approve?
so this the big item. Well, there's two big items. Obviously, there's the floor, which God bless you if you figure out how to elegantly solve that problem. And the pump station. Where the $2 million bill on the pump station? What did you do to come up with that estimate? I mean,
That was from a report from Arcadis.
Okay.
Is that included in the backup bill? I could pull it up.
I think no, it wasn't. Yes, it was in the backup, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, at the very end.
Yep, let's see. Wildwood,
Yep,
Arcadis, is that the
Yep.
one you want?
yep.
Is it the last
Fine.
page?
And
There's a whole
regardless of
report.
the number we authorize now, as long as it's less than 2 million, the actual bonding would be, I assume, whatever it's contracted out for, correct? I mean,
That's correct. That's
So-
correct.
Here's the cost summary.
so this is, I would assume, a conservative estimate.
I
Or-
hope.
Well,
It's
I hope so too.
Typically, engineer estimates are conservative.
Estimated total project cost approximately 2 million based on recent bid results for similar projects.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna stop sharing.
I actually don't even see it, but that's okay.
You weren't sharing. So
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
we take your word for it.
Okay.
You read the pertinent part, so
It's included in your agenda package, so.
okay. All right, I'd be willing to make a motion to, I'm not sure what the right wording is. We're moving to include $2.7 billion in proposed bonding.
Yeah, the motion would be to approve 2.7 million in bond insurance for 3 projects. Wildwood, $2 million. Beardsley Floor, 500,000, and miscellaneous capital design efforts for 200,000. For a total of 2.7 million. So if I can get a motion,
So moved.
have a second, please.
Second,
John seconded. Have a vote, please. Margaret, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Is-
Wildwood is also
Bruce-
in a floodplain, is not a floodplain, but it drains to the
The
Drains
lake.
to the lake.
lake,
Wait,
right?
wait.
So yeah, that's one we really can't afford to have a problem with.
Drains right by Bruce's house.
Yeah, it's near Bruce's house.
Right.
Then Bruce would go out and fix it, dig a trench, whatever it takes.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to old business, which is the Reservoir Avenue sanitary sewer connection proposed by Vessel Technology. And I'm going to ask that you now bring in Attorney Jay Klein. And I don't know who the other individual is with Jay.
There's actually
Bill, they're in
other
they should be
people.
in the audience.
Luke Morrow has his hand up. Okay.
Okay,
Do we know if the other 2 people need to
Yes.
come in?
Well,
Kyle
part of the group.
Stein and Madison Smith.
Good evening, folks. Jay Klein of Carmody Law, lawyer representing Vessel Technologies. If you could also, you might have said it while I was being transitioned, but Luke Morrow, our project engineer, is with us. He's the one you really want to hear from. So if you can let Luke in, I think
I'm here, Jay. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. All right.
I'm
Let's
here.
make that up. So thanks so much, folks.
so
Is this
somebody
the project
somebody
with the
mentioned,
modular design that we talked about before?
yes,
Okay, got it.
150 units. There's 2 other people in the audience. Is that what you said, Margaret?
Yes, Kyle Stein and Madison Smith.
Yes, Madison is an associate at my firm. You're welcome to bring her into the panel. And Kyle Stein is an associate of Vessel with Vessel. He's a member of the applicant entity, and it's worthy to include him in the conversation here as well. So,
Okay.
but we're here to support Luke, and I think you're all here to hear from Luke rather than me or some of the other smart folks on our team.
Just need one more to come in.
Okay.
Kyle Stein.
Right.
All right, so while Kyle's getting promoted, for the record, my name is Luke Morrow. I'm a professional engineer with Soli Engineering, office at 501 Main Street in Monroe, again, on behalf of Vessel Technologies for the proposed 150 units of multifamily at 2135, 2145, and 2155 Reservoir Avenue. So it wasn't last month, actually, it was in November. I wasn't able to attend, so my colleague, I think Alex, had a brief discussion with you, and I think it was tabled pretty quickly because you guys were waiting for a peer review from Wright Pierce to come in, so we couldn't get too far on that call. And then I believe the December meeting, because of lack of quorum, was canceled. So here we are in January. So appreciate everyone sticking with us through this process. So just wanted to go through some of our thoughts, on the memo that was submitted. I don't know if anyone had a chance to review it, but some of the thoughts that are outlined in the memo. We did have a meeting with the peer reviewer as well. Monday had offered some suggestions. I'm going to reiterate some of those suggestions again for everyone, on the meeting here tonight, and then obviously field any questions. So. And I'm just going to go kind of point by point. It's probably the easiest way to go through. And I won't go word for word, but I'll just kind of summarize their comments. And then our responses, concerns, thoughts on each of those, and we can kind of take questions. So initially, we had submitted an application. Guidance was given to us, I believe, by Tatiana. Typically, Trumbull looks for a design flow of about 150 gallons per day per bedroom, when estimating an average daily flow for development such as this. So at 150 total units, 178 bedrooms, not units. So 150 units, 178 bedrooms. That puts you at 26,700 gallons per day. We were asked to provide a peak flow. For what it's worth, we've done these in other municipalities. I don't recall, at least in my time doing it, ever being requested for a peak flow, from Bridgeport or from Shelton or the MDC or whatnot. But we offered a peak flow of about 1.5 gallons per day, noting that I believe the development to our south had also recommended that as well. So when all was said and done, when you apply that 1.5 peaking factor to our 26,700 gallons per day, you're at a peak flow of just over 40,000 gallons per day. So based on this leads me into the first bulk of the comments that were given. I'll call it comment number 2. It's the second major bullet point. Wright Pierce had indicated that the peaking factor that was offered. I'm sorry, that's not comment number 2. I believe it's actually comment number 3. But the peaking factor that was offered doesn't conform with the typical peaking factor that's applied for the town of Trumbull, given guidance in the TR16, which is basically, and I have a copy on the screen, it's a guide for the design of wastewater treatment works by the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission. So essentially, I just want to talk through some of the points we found in the document and our reasoning for why we think it's not necessarily appropriate to apply this 5.6 peaking factor, because quickly things can get extremely conservative, and sometimes a problem could be identified, which may not necessarily be a problem in reality. So, just for what it's worth, the intro to the document, and if everyone can see, I'm going to share my screen. And just let me know when that pops up. Can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the TR16 guide that's referenced. So this is just from the introduction. you know, and it's
Luke, one question. Who
Yes.
publishes this TR16? Is this an ASCE document or?
it's the New England Interstate Water Pollution Control Commission. So there's information contained within it from various sources. Some are from ASCE, some are from other design manuals. Some could be empirical data, you know, collected regionally or elsewhere in the country. But it's basically it's a document that's put together by this commission, and they're located out of Lowell, Mass. So, and then it basically, you know, encompasses, you know, New England states, and then also guidance for New England states, I should say, and also New York. So just high level, you know, we did want to, you know, indicate this, and this is kind of what my, you know, my presentation will focus on. They mention as a guide, it's not construed to be superseding the requirements, regulations, policies, and standards of appropriate state and water pollution control agencies. Users of this guide should be aware of all applicable regulations. Local and state regulators should always be contracted before starting the facility. So,
Okay, with all due respect, sir, that all that's saying is if you have a different regulation, this is not, doesn't override it, does not say it's not an appropriate recommendation.
that's correct. And it gets into my next point, which is when you're going through an engineering report for the design of a sewer treatment system, and I have it highlighted in you know, the flow rates here, section 1.2.4, it clearly indicates flow rates for a particular system, both existing and proposed, should be included in the report. Per capita waste average distribution, flows should be calculated using existing state data, information from technical journals, and our actual water use rates. So as our, you know, based on our understanding, you know, obviously the initial design flows calculated were from a manual. They weren't based on empirical data. The peaking factor that's applied to the rate, which is 5.6, is also based on data from ASCE. And if you bear with me, I'm going to click through that very quickly. And it's noted here where existing data are unavailable, right? Peak domestic design flow may be determined using the ratio on this chart. And then the chart is taken from ASCE Sewer Design and Construction. That's a manual that was constructed basically in the 1970s and 80s. So inherently, the document is guiding people to information that was collected 40 to 50 years ago, at least based on what we can find, before there was any type of plumbing code enacted to reduce, you know, for volume control in terms of low flow fixtures and all that stuff. So while it might be the most most recent available information, I would argue that it's out of date because it has been collected from data from a long time ago.
Look,
Yeah.
this Frank, I really don't want to interrupt, but would plumbing fixtures, I don't believe would have an impact on peaking factors.
Well, there's the control of the flow coming out of the pipe is more control at this point in time. So I would argue there's less variance in the amount of water that could be coming out of those various fixtures in terms of you know, toilets and sink fixtures and whatnot. But to that point, the peaking factor selected is the highest peaking factor that's recommended. It's the peaking factor for the highest hour on the highest day of the year, and it's based on the lowest flow rate that's available on this table here. So, which is 0.1 or 0.1 million gallons per day, or 100,000 gallons per day. So it very quickly, right? And you know, and to get to the crux of it, when you take our flows you know, that were provided, the 26,000 gallons per day, and the 50,000 gallons per day that were taken from the residential development to our south, and then there was another set of flows that were taken from there was 20 residential units across the street that were recently, I believe, were recently connected. I don't know if they've been connected yet. And those are all applied with a 5.6 peaking factor per day. You can see how very quickly you form a model, and it's considered an existing condition, but it's a hypothetical model of flows that are 5.6 times what's expected on average for the various uses flowing into this system. And the basis of, you know, the conclusion in this report that there's not adequate capacity in the pipe system is based on this multiplication factor of 5.6 added, several times for our development, for the development to ourselves. We couldn't tell from the report, but I know there was other developments at, I believe, 2300 Reservoir Avenue, 100 Oakview Drive. They were previously approved and constructed. I don't believe there was any empirical data collected after those were built. Even just an evaluation of water records, it doesn't appear, I'm not sure, I'm not saying it was or wasn't, but it doesn't appear that any empirical data from stuff that was built was ever provided and inputted into this model. And when you keep peaking those factors on top of each other, that's where essentially there's a statement made that there's a capacity issue in the model. But it does note that based on our average daily flow, there is capacity in the system to handle our flow without any upgrade, and it's only necessary if you were to account for an increase, in the flow, which has been compounded time after time after time based on the data that we've evaluated in this report.
Okay, so
really
I'm looking at
quickly-
this graphic that you sent. Oh, excuse me for interrupting.
Yes,
And I get it that as you move to the right and you aggregate more flows over more over more sources, you get some sort of statistical balancing, if you will, or
Correct.
offset, so that it's not as extreme in a larger implementation than a smaller one. And we got this interesting little logarithmic scale on the left here.
Correct.
That's
yeah.
but I don't see it ever getting down to 1.5, except in a massive case on the right-hand side. So why did you use 1.5?
Well, we didn't refer to this manual, right? Full disclosure. When we recommended 1.5, and I'll be honest with you, normally when we recommend a peaking factor, it's for an immediate water flow. We don't typically recommend a peaking factor or are asked for a peaking factor for an average daily sewer flow. At least in my recollection working with regional WPCAs. So the 1.5 that we had recommended, was the same that was basically recommended by the development to our south for the 48 units to the south of us. That's where that 1.5 came from.
Okay. I mean, if we're dealing with a situation where we're close to the edge potentially, I think we do have to deal with the worst case, and that is the goal of using peaking factors, if I'm not mistaken. Bill, do you have a comment at all on what 5.6 is conservative, but on the other hand, it is within the realm of the recommendations. 1.5 is also, if on the right-hand side of this graphic, it's a massive system, I would assume. I don't know. I have to see the numbers to know what that scale actually is.
Well,
100 whatever.
I would also argue that that's on the peak. The 5.6 is it's clear. It's the peak flow on the peak day. So that's like 1 hour basically out of a year, right? As I read it, the maximum day in a year. So we're talking about we may be over capacity based on this factor applied to all these various uses at the same time for 1 hour out of a whole year, right? And that's where my concern, right? I'm not saying, I'm not trying to mislead anybody, but that's how the document reads. It's the peak flow on the peak day of the year. So, and hints that there may be a capacity issue for a very, very, very small snippet in time, not on a constant basis, right? And that's where,
Well, the whole idea with
Look,
using peak in anything, is to say it's the worst case scenario at the worst case time. I mean, it's not. We're not even contemplating what the averages are here, because that's not where you get into trouble. You get into trouble in the worst case scenario. So
It becomes
this-
an environmental issue.
This
You know,
peaking flow has a lot to do with the rain in the area. From what I researched on ASCE, they said in desert areas 1 to 3, in rain areas, and they say like the Northeast, they say 4 to 6. So, back to John's point, 1.5 doesn't seem to be applicable. And the peaking factor has a lot to do with rain. And we do have in data that our pump stations, the one pump station where we measure it, Well, we measure it in both points going into Bridgeport, but the one pump station, the main pump station, we have significant increases in flow. Bill, how much, that thing goes up pretty high, right?
You can get it with a heavy rain event, you could go up 30%, if not more, on flow.
Yeah.
And in the past, we've seen a peaking factor, actually seen a peaking factor of 5.5. So while we, and the document you're showing here, you know, all wastewater engineers reference this in their design of the treatment plants and sewers, and the state of Connecticut approves our documents based on what is presented here. So it's very standard. I have never heard of something as low as 1.5 as a peaking factor, and I think you admitted that that seemed low after looking at it.
Could I interject for a moment, please? I'm sorry. Unless Christine, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you?
Go ahead. I was actually
Okay.
going to ask how you prefer to proceed, because there were a handful of things that were said here that I wanted to either add to or correct.
And Christine, I want you to take the time to fully respond to the point, especially about the 5.5, how and where that was developed. So that's in the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one
Oh,
other point I
yeah.
want to make is there was a statement that seemed to insinuate that the peaking factors were stacked on top of each other, and that's not true. The peaking factor is applied to a flow. What is getting stacked is the amount of development that is happening in this area. So, and this area was not designed to handle wastewater flow with high density. So it is not surprising that we're at the maximum in sewer segments in this area and needing to increase it.
So, but I guess my counter would be, do we know for a fact there's an issue other than through this theoretical model? Because we haven't, I guess our concern here for a fairly significant upgrade that's been recommended or requested is that it's based on a model and it's not based on what might actually be happening.
But I will say that the model is based on experience, and our design experience we have seen in Trumbull, experience in the industry. So evidence will show itself, you know, when everything is built. Have we seen evidence? Sure. We mentioned in the last meeting that the reservoir pump station overflowed on several occasions, and not the pump station or the manholes. And was it a design issue? Maybe, maybe not. But there's the other condition. There's the fat, soil, and grease that gets into the bottom of the pipes. There's the condition of the pipes that get clogged. You know, homeowners, property owners don't maintain their laterals. Things happen to the sewer system that is unpredictable. So there's a reason their size the way they are. There's the reason we use these documents to size them. You know, and we're only looking right now at the sewer sizing right now. We could have a whole separate conversation on the flow evaluation, which I think is where we started. If you look in TR 16, they also mentioned 70 gallons per day per capita. Trumbull has a per capita of 3 people, 3 point something people. So you know, the 150 is already less than being another approach of being conservative.
So to that fact, we actually were able to get data pulled from Vessel has a similar sized development, and certainly we'll submit for the record the actual water usage bills from the municipality, the Public Utilities Department in the City of New London. They have a 30, and hopefully everyone can see it on the screen here. They have 30 units occupied by 34, and they're all single bedroom units, occupied by 34 total people. They have an occupancy rate of 1.13 people per bedroom. So what we did is we looked at the flow, the meter readings, you know, based on their utility bills. And it hasn't been fully occupied since, you know, it's been fully occupied since the end of January. So not quite a whole year, but about 10 months, give or take, worth of, or not 10 months worth of data, because the last utility bill hasn't been sent yet, but eight or 9 months worth of data. And the data shows that for these smaller type units, because they're only about, the single bedroom units are only 550 square feet, give or take, that the peak usage for the 30 units was 1,160 gallons in a day, which when you broke it down by the number of people in the building was only 34 gallons per day per person. So if you were to take that same occupancy load, which is 1.13 people per bedroom, right? And you apply it to Trumbull, which has got a total of 178 bedrooms, you'd get 202 occupants. And at that, the average rate over the whole thing which was 29 gallons per day, and that's over the total amount of billings they have, that comes out to only 5,900 gallons on an average day compared to the 26,000 that we had submitted. But however, Christine, to your point, utilizing the 70 gallons per day per occupant times 202 occupants in the building, that only comes to a total of 14,121 gallons per day compared to the 26,000 gallons per day used in our estimates. So if we utilize, Vessel's data, this is real data from a similar facility with similar sized, it's the same product. So the units are exactly the same. The exception being there's going to be some 2-bedroom units here. You come up to something that is almost half of what was recommended as the 150 gallon per day sewer calculation initially recommended. So when you take this 14,120 gallons per day and apply that peaking factor, now you're only looking at 80,000 total gallons per day instead of 150 total thousand gallons per day. And at that rate, and obviously we need to send the calculations for verification, we're calculating that that pipe is actually under capacity. And that's still using the 5.6 peaking factor and using the water usage data, that was provided empirically from Vessel for their similar facility that's in New London. Again, I understand. I'm just presenting.
I would use the term within capacity, not under capacity, but okay.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I'll agree with that. That's fine.
But your model is based on about one person per bedroom.
Right.
Which
Can't promise that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say comparing Trumbull to New London is, could be apples and oranges. I mean, I haven't looked at the demographics, but Electric Boat is the biggest employer up there. So you have a lot of younger people, workforce housing. I don't think the Trumbull area, could be similar. I mean, we have a great school system. People come into our town to utilize the schools. So, I think it may be different, but, but yours is based on one person per bedroom, which turns out that your flow is half what your original model said. Does that make sense? Because you assumed 2 people per bedroom.
I didn't assume any people per bedroom. I assume guidance was given to me initially that Trumbull by design normally uses 150 gallons per day per bedroom.
Right.
Okay,
so we use that as the design standard.
That looks like it equates to 2 people per bedroom.
It's like two and change. It's like 2.25, give or take. And that's for a 550 square foot. A lot of these are 550 square foot.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. Bill, the 150 per bedroom, is that what we use throughout the town?
That is what the Department of Public Health uses for sizing septic systems.
Correct.
Right. And many communities use that as a standard.
What does MDC use?
Oh, I'd have to try and look it up.
And we recently did one with MDC, and you obviously taking my word for it, but the health code was just updated in 2024. It's 150 for the first 3 bedrooms. The health code is now 150 for the first 3 bedrooms, then 125 for everything above that.
That sounds right.
Per bedroom?
Per bedroom, and then one.
So it's similar to what we have. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, one of the problems we have, and
it's
I
for-
think I told you that capacity in this system, we were at the last development was approved with, less than 50, about 50 units, and we were at 92% capacity. So there's not a lot of capacity left. And my understanding of peaking factors is that if it's smaller pipe, it becomes more critical. And if we get 10 inches of rain, what do you call it, Christine? I?
Inflow and infiltration, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, could be significant because these are older pipes, right? How old are some of these pipes, Bill?
They're back into mid-70s.
Yeah, so that's a consideration that just from my research of peaking factors, that has to be considered. The age of the pipe, the system, new piping system, you can make allowances for lower flow. But anyway, back to flow, it looks like it's 150 per bedroom. And that's whatever
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman and recording secretary, I have to step away for a few minutes, so please record my departure and I'll let you know when I'm back.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
So,
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But my point, again, is, I think our concern is it's stated there's a capacity issue, but the capacity issue again is based on a model, right? With the peaking factor. And I'm not saying that the model is not correct or is not incorrect, but I don't know. We're not sure, or I guess our argument is, or our concern is that if it's not verified, it's quite an ask for such an upgrade for something that theoretically is an issue, but it's not necessarily verified, right? And even if it was, and Frank, we had chatted, there's also other potential solutions other than upsizing the pipes within the roadway, which could be on-site holding tanks you can put in pumps that can be set to go off during off-peak times, so that when not those busier hours during the day, but overnight hours, maybe 8 to 6 in the morning or something like that, the pumps can be set to go off, and you could put a flow meter on the site internally, and reports can be provided if needed, if it's determined that there is a capacity issue. I mean, we could certainly try to minimize that by offering that, I would say, equally appropriate but different solution to at least have our development not contribute to some of the perceived peaking problems within the roadway. And that was one other thing that we had mentioned as a potential solution, other than upgrading 700, 800 linear feet of piping within the roadway. But
How much flow would you put in your storage? 2 days, 3 days? I mean, how does that work, Christine?
I don't think it'd be normally I think you would probably have to design for a typical day. At least
Yeah, we don't, just
A peak
to be
day,
clear.
probably.
Yeah, we Luke, unless you have something that I didn't see before the meeting, we don't have that system designed out to share.
No, we don't. We do not.
But that's something that we are prepared
As
to.
an
Yeah. I think the purpose of the information, or one of the purposes of the information, the data points that Luke has given to you is, again, not the engineer. I'm perhaps the least qualified person technically on this call. But I think it's a good point that Luke makes, that, TR16 peaking factor of 5.615. I've seen, in instances, 2.5 peaking factor. Those things are helpful to make projections, but what is better than a projection or a tabulation is hard data, raw data, real data. And that's why we thought it was important that you see, and I understand we're just showing this, you're seeing this information for the first time, not just less than 15 minutes ago. And we'll, as Luke mentioned, we can provide it in writing or digitally, so you can digest it fully. You all need to have the facts as to who will be occupying these types of units and what the flows are expected from these types of units. And again, not from engineering perspective, but just from my experience as a land use attorney, the types of units, the unit sizes, and the, I guess, site design of the project generally. This is a project that you're looking at, single young professionals. This isn't a development that welcomes, or I shouldn't say welcomes, that will draw families or folks with children. I mean, even and you folks may know this from other jobs you've seen or worked on, even generously sized 2-bedroom apartments in multifamily communities actually don't generate, they're not as many people living within them as you would think. So this data, we think, gives you a very good, we know this gives you a very good picture of the flows that will be coming from the types of units types of apartments that Vessel seeks to deliver to the town of Trumbull and bring to this property specifically. So I'm sorry, I wanted to get that point.
Jay, I have one question. Do you have any other examples? I mean, I know about New London that came online early last year.
Mhm.
Do you have any others that are online? Or
Yeah, there's several buildings under construction in Connecticut. There may be others in the region. We can ask Vessel and Luke if you know the answer to this already, but we can see if there's more data to provide in addition to these numbers.
I know there's some coming online in Cheshire, elsewhere near Hartford.
But not open yet.
But
Yeah,
not
yeah.
correct. There's not enough, right? Ideally there would be. And Frank, too, I know you had mentioned, before, so right, typical under engineering, we always start with the conservative estimate. And if it doesn't lead to a problem, right, there's really no need to explore it further because we know we're covered. The reasoning behind providing this empirical data from Vessel's, site in New London is because based on the initial flows that were, and were recommended and the peaking factors that were applied, it was determined that there could be a potential issue. So, as engineering, it's my job and it's our practice to go back and say, okay, well, if we take the ultra conservative numbers and approach out of the equation and try to further refine that to something that we think is more realistic, do we still result in a problem? And that's right. And that's the point that we are trying to make here. I'm not saying there is or there is not a capacity issue, but what I'm saying is the identified capacity issue, right, appears to be based on a model. And look, I get it. It's difficult to collect and expensive and timely to collect flow data all the time, continuously update it after new developments come online, try to get a hold of everyone's water bills, see what they're actually using and what the peaks are for the day. But what our point is, and I'm a traffic engineer, so this comes into play in traffic too. When you have to consider other developments, one, that are not online, like the development to our south, two, we'll make an assumption it's going to get built. But if it doesn't get built, that's 50,000 gallons per day of peaking capacity that's accounted for in the system, but may never be realized if it's not built, right? So, and I realize you need to have some assumptions in play, and you need to say, okay, well, it's been approved, so we need to, it's likely that it's going to be built, and it's reasonable to assume that. But when when over time, when you keep adding all these developments with these peaking factors in, then that's our concern that, okay, is there really a capacity issue, or is it because of, the model stating that it is?
my understanding of a peaking factor, and Christine, please jump in here, is that it applies to all the flow in all of the system that's in that gravity line.
Right.
So every customer, every apartment is you apply the same peaking factor because it's an environmental impact of heavy rains and peak flows. And it's like, I think you said it best on our Monday call, that it's like you design for the 100-year rain and you may not ever get it, right?
Right.
But in the assumption is though that, if I don't know how many units it was, but if there's 50 units to the south and then there's 20 single family homes to the east, and then there's those other two developments that are off of Fenneman Drive, now you might be up to somewhere, in the hundreds of units, and you're assuming they're all peaking at 5.6 times their normal flow rate at the same time on the same day. It's highly unlikely that.
I don't think that's how peaking factors
Right.
work,
It's the
but
flow that comes in on an average basis. At a peak event happens during that time. And again, I'll give you the example that their pump station went from 2 to 11 MGD a handful of years back. So, I mean, it does happen. A lot of it is inflow and infiltration. It doesn't happen to, it's not always related to the people using the system.
But I
So
believe
again, we're
peaking
talking
factor-
about a sewer pipe design.
but the peaking factor isn't applied to the infiltration number based on the comment letter. It's only applied to the flow rate for the building. So the
Yeah.
0.6 shouldn't factor in weather at all, as far as I understand.
But both things apply. Yes, you're right. And the numbers that you're showing here are not taking into a consideration infiltration or inflow. Now, I think ultimately what you're asking, like you made a comment about, what about all the other people that are in line to do the work that have been approved and it isn't built yet? And is it, if you're done before them, is it fair that you have to put the pipe in and they don't wind up doing it? I mean, that's a function of, whoever, that's how the town runs every town will run their business that way, right? You can't, I gotta believe it's law at this point, right? Somebody has an approval to take capacity in that pipe. You have to assume it's going to get built.
Yeah,
maybe
What you're asking is, can some of the numbers we're looking at be looked at differently? But has to pass the straight face test. And the board has to decide if they want to do that, because then they're doing that with every other person in every other type. I mean, there's a standard of practice that we use when we're designing sewers. I mentioned this on Monday, like we would not design a sewer to be 100% full if we were putting a new pipe in right now. We go to 30 or 50%. So already we're being less conservative than we normally would be by allowing the pipe to be full.
So if there is then an identified capacity issue, then I guess our question would be, would the board consider, a holding tank or some, go ahead, Jay, go ahead.
yeah, before, again,
Go ahead.
assume that there's a problem, I think it is important just to reiterate, the important, and again, not an engineer, understanding the value of the facts. This is one side of the equation, or one part of the equation, I should say. Certainly, Christine, you mentioned very important point. Obviously, any fees that would be paid as a result of connecting to this project would if approved, would help with I&I abatement, potentially. Another item that Luke mentioned in terms of, well, what are the facts? Let's gather the facts, because ultimately what you all deserve, what the folks in Trumbull deserve are decisions based on the facts. And that's what the law requires, decisions based on the facts, are conducting flow meter tests of what's going on in the pipe as we speak, so that we can get further comfort about what the current state of play is in the system in this neighborhood. I think that's something that would be very helpful in reaching an ultimate determination of, I don't want to say, is there a problem, but what's going on, and is this peaking factor, or are the projections and assumptions, are they accurate, or how close are they to what's going on in the pipe today? And that's something that Vessel has agreed to do, and we can get started on. I think Bill, you and I were taught it was like 11:30 or something today, so that's something that we can get started on tomorrow in terms of getting to work on getting that information and getting it to you, so that all of you have the benefit of the complete set of facts as it relates to this application.
Well, that will give some information about the existing conditions. I'm not going to, and it would need to be for a substantial duration and during rain events, so we understand how the piping system is working in this particular area. What you won't know at that time is who is using it and when. And we would also have to, we have the other side of the equation, which is design flows for any of the connections that are approved to date, adding to that existing whatever metering data you come up with. So we typically meter
would
for
they
3 months
meter?
at least. I think he's
Christine.
suggesting that he meters existing flow right now to see that the pipe might have 30% capacity, even though the model shows it with this amount of flow in the pipe, it should have 40% capacity, or is using 30% versus 40.
We're still in a drought, so just keep that in mind.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in. And by the way, Mr. Morrow, do you still need to share your screen here?
I'm sorry. No, I can take that off.
Yeah, if you can take that off.
Yep, sorry about that.
I mean, I understand the issue in the sense that I assume is primarily related to how many feet of pipe you have out there and how many connections you have, places where infiltration can occur. And if you have 150 bedrooms that intersect at one point, it's not really likely to do 150 times as much I as, 150 individual units with their own laterals and everything else through the ground. But we have to have a standard somewhere, and we have to use some common set of procedures. And I think we have them. I've yet to hear anybody say we've used any different set of procedures at any point in time. So I'm a little, reticent to want to change them unless I have a real reason to think that the world has changed and that for New England 5.6 is no longer the right number and what have you. I mean, we've established a set of standards we use. I think, Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, we've used the same numbers everywhere, correct?
Right. When we review plans, this is what we're applying to all the other people that have built in this area.
So while I sort of mentally understand where building apartments is different than building 150 standalone units, I don't think we have the information to use a different set of numbers. I mean, does anybody disagree or what are the thoughts of the rest of the commissioners?
I thought you said it well. I mean, we have to go by a standard, health department standard, recommended design standards, or, and that's up to Christine. What is the normal standard of care to develop a sanitary system? And
so excuse me, I don't want to sound uncooperative, but there are times when there are standards. There are different standards. We already mentioned one tonight in this call. There's the 70 gallons per capita per day. Trumbull has 3. There's the Department of Health number. Trumbull is using a standard. I've worked in other communities where they use a standard, and sometimes they'll get down a little bit to a nitty-gritty, and they'll say, okay, well, in a 2-bedroom apartment, you can have 4 people. Let's use the 70 for that number. In a 1-bedroom apartment, you could have 2 people. Let's use the 70. And in that case, you're only using 140 instead of 150. Do those nuances make enough of a change where you're tucking that flow right in underneath the capacity of the pipe? I don't know. But it means deviating from your standard. And, the person before you, what are they going to think? I mean, they got an approval. The person that had to put the pipe in the ground a couple of years ago, what do they think?
So I apologize because I did step away when I think you guys started talking about the alternative of having some sort of holding tank or something similar, which seems to. I'm sorry?
We didn't talk much about it after you left.
Oh, okay.
There's no data on that.
Okay. Because I was curious how that actually works. I mean, it doesn't change the I. It only changes, it holds off the intentionally, the 14,000 or 26,000 number, not the 1.5 times or 5 times, depending on how you look at it, number doesn't change, correct?
Well, it would, because everything would hold back and release at one time when the system is essentially dry at night. is.
Well, you're not holding back INI, you're just holding back
so-
the
so they can
14,000
mitigate the-
gallons that.
Yeah, but the
Paying for-
INI is the INI is it's very small compared to the overall,
Right.
like 1%,
And that-
2%.
That's just so you know, Mr. Green, that's something that we can provide more information on that type of system, how it would be applied here and how that would impact the calculation and your analysis at a future meeting. We just didn't get a chance to get to that part. We only received, we received these comments very recently, had a chance to connect with Christine and her team, a couple of days ago. So that's something that we are committed to investigating and presenting to you all with more detail and that data that you're mentioning. At your
Okay.
next
So-
meeting.
All right,
So,
thank you.
so Jay, would it be fair to say that you want to take your application, hold it in abeyance for another 30 days?
Mr. Chairman, that's where I was going to jump in. I just want to get it into focus here a little bit on our procedure as we move forward here tonight. If the applicant kind of has the floor, if they have more information they want to present, we should let them do that. If you think you're at the end or near the end, we can wrap that up. If the town wants to present any more evidence for the record, then we can do that in response. We kind of went back and forth here frequently. And it's the applicant's application here. So they have the option of concluding and saying, this is all we have, take a vote. And the commission can vote up or down, yes or no. Or the applicant can agree that we can continue the hearing. We do have a statutory deadline. I need their consent on the record to continue it to a later date. And they can submit more data and information to the commission for consideration and a potential vote next month. So that's kind of where we are, just so we can give a little bit of formality to how we're going to proceed next. So Jay, I'm going to throw it in your court here, whatever you guys want to do. If you have more to present now, it's your floor. You can go ahead and then we can respond from there.
Luke, did you want to present any more of your, and again, Luke prepared a response that he'll put into the record when we wrap up. But what I will say is that, what we don't want to do is we don't want anyone to we want you guys to have all the facts, or you folks to have all the facts. Sounds like we can get you some more facts in the intervening week. So I'll let Luke, make any more substantive comments. If Christine, you would kind of put your hand up. I want to make sure you've had a chance to say everything that you want to share this evening, and then I'm happy to get to the the lawyer stuff that Jim, I'm pointing to Jim because he's over here on my screen, that Jim was getting at.
I thought it was somebody else. I wasn't sure.
My buddy over here. No.
The only thing I was going to state was, so most recently, and listen, we've done a few projects in Trumbull, right? The most recent one we did, you guys are probably familiar with the medical office building at 6600 Main Street. That was in front of your guys just under a year ago, February 2025. And I didn't present that. Jay Montagno from my office did, and I did chat with him about it today. And we looked through meeting minutes, and we can certainly, present those as well. Based on our recollection of the conversations and the hearing that entailed, and in the meeting minutes, we didn't notice any peaking factor that was applied or even discussed as that part of the review. Now, I don't know, maybe behind the scenes it was, or we weren't aware of it or anything like that, but we didn't have any recollection. So this is, I'll admit, this is. And we've done a couple of things. We're also, going through One Trefoil with a supermarket development over there. I think there was an existing connection point, so we didn't have to come before WPCA or whatever. But this is the first time in our few applications we've done over the couple of years where the peaking factor has actually come up, believe it or not. So
I think we're more
That's
concerned about
odd.
capacity in this particular area, though, than we were necessarily in other places. It's
Seen
really
a
a
lot of
function of the
development.
situation.
The
I
location-
just to come. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Did you want to speak before I
It's just,
say anything more?
you're building the apartments in a particular location. They're not up on Main Street where there may be different capacity issues, but we have to work with where you are. We can't
Yeah.
pick it up, move it somewhere else.
I would just say to the applicant, I mean, as I think Jim has expressed quite well, it's really up to you to decide how you want us to approach this, but I'm going to be very frank with you. Given if we're anything we do that would require us to change away from the policies we followed and the practices we followed, want to be really careful, and I'd really want to read and study the information. If I had to make a decision on the quickly, it's probably not going to be positive on changing practice. I'd rather, study it and understand it before I made such a vote. And really, at this point, I can honestly say I have not, given I just saw some of the information today for the first time. So it would not be fair. Just to be fair to you,
No,
if I had to
that's
react
understandable.
strictly on where we are right now, it would not necessarily be positive for you. But if I got time to study it and understand it, that might change.
And I will say the previous 48 unit apartment complex, which is just close to your development, we did have a peaking factor consideration that I recall
Yeah, you
of
did.
5.6.
Right.
So
And then we
the-
changed their flows. We
and
asked them to change the flows. Yeah.
Hey, Christine, I did want you to mention that the specifics about that 5.5 peak you mentioned before, about how and where that came up. If you could just
So at the Beardsley pump station, when we
Elaborate.
studied that, this was back like 2012, maybe 2014. It was a rainy year. The average daily flow was 2 million gallons per day, and there we saw peaks of 11 million gallons per day. And the sewer manhole overflowed upstream of the station. So Reservoir Pump Station had similar conditions in the past.
so we
But
do
that's why
have
the
some,
upgrades have been happening. That's why the upgrades of the stations have happened. But it's just evidence of the fact that depending on the weather event and the diurnal flow is 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's when everybody is flushing at the same time. Is what the system has to be designed for. And sometimes we get into this mentality of, well, it's never going to happen, or it might only happen once. That's all it needs to happen for a violation, and then state of Connecticut is involved.
Yeah, and I think too, oh, I'm sorry, don't let me, Jim or Christine.
No, I was set. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe to Mr. Green's point,
Mhm.
having the data that Luke was sharing earlier, where, using some of those real life numbers, even if we assume the peaking factor, I think we can get some more comfort to you folks on what we're proposing here. So I hear you loud and clear, and assuming that other folks feel the same way, Mr. Nugent, we're happy to agree to a continuation of this proceeding to, let's say February 25th, I think is the next meeting, and we get together beforehand, great, but that gives us some time here.
I think that makes sense. Is that our next date, Bill?
I believe so.
25?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have I have the schedule up on my, I can find it in a second, so we have the right date. I would hate to say the wrong date. February 25th. Did I say that, or the 26th? I don't.
I think you said 25. Yeah. Okay.
February 25th. Yeah.
when's the next meeting? The 25th?
That's correct.
Yeah. And Jay, if your team wants to present anything other, such as alternate options, like Luke has mentioned, I think it'd be appropriate to get that kind of data and to the commission as soon as you can, so it can be reviewed perhaps by Christine and Bill, and so we have a good understanding of how that would work.
We can have
Yeah,
another meeting might be helpful.
That is, I was just going to say, and
Sure.
again, for me, it's so smart people like Luke and Christine can explain it to not so smart people like myself, but having those sit down discussions with you all, I think having a couple, one, whatever it is, we'll work on our homework as quickly and as carefully as we can, so we can have that conversation sooner rather than later, so that the next time we're in front of you, Mr. Chairman, and your colleagues, we have, I'm confident that we're in a position that we can get everyone feeling good about this project in terms of a sewer capacity perspective, and get excited about, putting shovels in the ground. So we do appreciate, I should have said this at the beginning, appreciate you all having a special meeting this evening, and spending some of your Wednesday night with us. So thank you.
Well, this is the monthly meeting anyway, but that's okay. Appreciate your
Yeah,
comment.
I will say
No,
too.
we
you
moved,
know,
we moved it up a week. We moved it up a week.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
We're not
special
having-
monthly meeting.
What I will say too, before we do shove off here, if there are any other, again, our goal is to work quickly and carefully and get you folks the facts you need, and the answers that you'd like. If there are any other questions or comments that are at the top of your mind tonight, so that we can take them down and add that to our to-do list, starting first thing tomorrow morning, please let us know. We'll take good notes and we'll come with answers to those questions next time.
I think it would be helpful if you have any other developments. I mean, other than New London's kind of small. It's only 30 units. But even if you have some that are being leased, I mean, any data you have, I don't think anything in the 5 boroughs would be appropriate to the suburbs. But if you have something in Westchester or out on, Middle Long Island, Jersey, I don't know where all you build, but it's not just Connecticut, I assume. So that would be helpful.
Okay.
Cool. All right, with that, I guess we're going to ask for a motion to continue the application of 2135 through 2145 and 2155 Reservoir Avenue until next February 26th, our next meeting.
If I may, before you
Sure.
call for a motion, Jim Nugent,
Mhm.
does the applicant need to request the continuance on the record?
We have to grant it, right?
Well, I
Sorry,
took
but
their
I-
agreement as a consent,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We agree, or what's the term you want me to, I'm sorry, we consent to.
should request.
Or, yeah, we request, the continuation of this discussion till the 25th.
Thank you. I will include that in the record.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, and I'll
And
move
it-
that motion, please.
Oh, wait a minute. So the meeting is the February
25th.
25th.
Yeah,
25.
25th.
25,
I
yeah.
misspoke. John, can we have the motion again for
Yes,
continuance
I-
to the 25th?
I will concur. Make that motion, please.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Second,
Bruce, thank you. Can we have a vote, please? Margaret, the motion passed unanimous consent. Thank you, guys. I'm sure
Thank
we'll
you,
be
guys.
talking to you in the next couple of weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your patience for my
Happy-
engineering jargon.